Okay guys, so it has been quite a long time since I've done a review on a LEWS reel, and to be honest, this is not the reel that I really wanted to do a review on from LEWS. Now that reel would be the Custom Light. But let me go ahead and explain to you guys how I picked the reels to review on this channel. And there's really only two categories. Now the first category is the want category, and those are reels that I really want to try out, whether it be, some new bait finesse reel, or, a reel comes out with some new innovations or advancements that I want to test. And then you have the reels that I really don't want or need, but they have what I call marketplace significance, and that's where this reel comes in. Now of course this is the Speed Spool LFS, and this has marketplace significance because as sure as the sun rises in the morning, the LEWS Speed Spool will be on Tackle Warehouse's bestseller list. Now this goes for this brand new model, which is really not brand new, it's a couple of years old, but it also went for the previous model that this one replaced. So generally on Tackle Warehouse's website, you'll see on their bestsellers page for reels, a bunch of Shimanos and then this LEWS Speed Spool. So that's why I'm doing this review, because apparently the previous Speed Spool was a really great seller for LEWS, and we're gonna find out if this new one is an improvement for all you guys who have the old model and you're wondering, what's the big deal about the new one, should you upgrade or not. Okay, so I've been sitting on this reel for a couple of months now, and I've actually ordered this reel from Tackle Warehouse instead of eBay like I did the last one. But here is some paperwork. Alright, here's the new Speed Spool LFS. I'm going to throw the box off to the side. Let you guys take a good look at this thing. Alright guys, I'm going to study this thing, I'm going to compare it with the old model, and I will get back to you. Okay guys, so I'm done with the inspection, and just to clarify, this is not a new model in the sense that it just came out. This actually came out in 2018, but it is the newest model of the Speed Spool LFS. And when it first came out in 2018, I took a look at it and I looked at the specs, and based off the pictures, it looked like all LEWS did was just update the frame to one of their newer frames, and they really didn't change anything else. But upon closer inspection, now that I have it in my hand, they actually did make a few changes, which I'm going to go over with you guys. And of course, to do that, I'm going to bring out the old model Speed Spool LFS, which I'm sure a lot of you guys who are watching have this reel. And this reel is what I would just call the epitome of a basic no frills workhorse reel. There's nothing fancy about it, has no kind of distinguishing features other than it is pretty small. But yeah, just a basic workhorse no frills reel. And in case you didn't know, I put this reel up against 5 other baitcasters in a landmark 6-way $99 baitcaster shootout a couple of years ago, and this reel tied for 4th place with 3 other reels. That would be the DAIWA FUEGO CT and then the GARCIA REVO X. But let's go over the changes. Now obviously the first change is the all new frame and body. As you can see, the size has went up. At least holding them in hand, it looks like the new model is definitely bigger, and it feels bigger when I'm palming them. The new model definitely takes up more space in my hand than the old one, but it is still very, very comfortable. It's a nice, comfortable shape, very low profile, but it has grown from the old model. As you can see, the color is a little bit different. The old model was like a two-tone, a dark gray frame with black side plates, while the new model is all dark gray. Now the frame is still aluminum, which is good. Side plate still graphite. But yeah, the paint job on the new model feels rougher. It's some kind of a matte finish, and the old model feels smoother to me. I don't know if this plays a role in that, but the new model is now made in China. I don't know if you guys can see that, but the sticker says China, while the old model was made in Korea. Now, when it comes to the hierarchy of countries that manufacture reels, of course Japan is at the top, but then Korea is second in my opinion. But yeah, just to let you guys know, the new one is made in China while the old one is made in Korea. Now, the ball bearing count on the new model remains the same as the old one at 10 ball bearings, so that's 9 bearings and 1 roller bearing, but the handle has grown. Now, the old handle was kind of short for these days at 85 millimeter, but the new one is significantly longer, as you can see, at 95 millimeters. Of course, they're both still aluminum, and they both still have the trademark LEWS paddle grips, which are rubberized. I think it's some kind of rubber put over some kind of a plastic material. Definitely not as soft as, you know, Shimano's knobs or DAIWA's knobs, but they feel nice. As you can also see, the nut and retainer has gotten a lot better looking on the new model, while the old model had this black plastic piece. So that's an improvement in looks in my opinion. Of course, the star drag is still clicking, and it is still made out of graphite like the old model. The spool tension still doesn't click, but it is very easy to turn, and it's got a nice big size and easy to grab onto, and it's made of aluminum. I think it's made of aluminum. But another improvement that I see is that now they've added numbers on the external brake adjustment, so you can actually see where you're at. And of course, the brake dial still clicks. Now let's count the number of adjustments. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. So there's 27 total clicks, so a total of 28 total adjustments. Of course, the old model, all you have is, you know, minimum or maximum, and that was it. So that's definitely an improvement. Now, they've upped the drag rating from the old model, and the new model is supposed to have 15 pounds of stopping power now versus the old model is supposed to have 10, and the drag material is still Rulon. But other than that, the only big significant improvement that I see is going to be the addition of what they call the P2 pinion. And basically, that just means that this new model has one bearing that supports the pinion gear. Well, I guess the old one didn't have any, which is kind of strange. And I looked at the schematics, and it looks like the bearing is on the spool tension knob side. I'm going to show you guys. Okay, so here's the old model. I took the spool tension knob off, and when you press the thumb bar, I don't know if you can see, nothing happens. So that spool shaft is riding on that bearing. So basically, I guess the only thing that's supporting this pinion is going to be the spool shaft. But take a look at the new model. And if you can see, there is a gold colored area in the center where the spool shaft is, and when I press the thumb bar, you can clearly see the pinion there, and the spool shaft is not touching that bearing. So that bearing is the new P2 pinion bearing. So this is basically like, you know, the old school Shimanos before they put the X-Ship double bearing pinion feature. So the pinion is supported by the bearing on this side, while the other side, I guess, is supported by the spool shaft under load. So it's still very smooth, and it's kind of strange that the old one didn't have any kind of bearing support at all. Okay, so now it's time to see if LEWS actually gave us any kind of hidden, unspoken performance upgrades. And of course, when I say that, I mean, did the spool lose any weight over the old one? Now, of course, I got my scale out, and we're gonna weigh the reels first. Okay, so the old reel weighed in at 7 ounces on the dot, and the new reel is a little bit heavier at 7.1. So it gained a little bit of weight, and I'm attributing that to just the physical size of this reel is bigger than the old one. Alright, so to get to the spools, they're still employing this little, I guess, latch here, or this little pin that you pull out. Okay, and you twist it up, and it's using the standard Korean style mag track system. No big shock there. Okay, so here's the spool of the new reel, and it feels pretty damn heavy, I won't lie. Of course, it's got a bearing on the spool shaft. Now here's the old spool, and this feels pretty damn heavy too. Hopefully I won't get them mixed up. But holding them in hand, it feels like the new one may be a little bit lighter. Let's cross our fingers that it is, but it looks like they have the same length spool shaft. So these spools might be compatible. I'm gonna try to really look at these spools, make sure I put the right spool in the right reel, because they look pretty identical to me, but the old one feels a little heavier. But let's see what the scale says. Alright, so here's the old one. 18.28 grams. While the new one, oh shit, 16.7 grams. So they actually did lighten this spool up. So if these bearings are the standard, 5x11x4, they should weigh anywhere from, I believe, 1.5 grams to 1 gram. But yeah, I'm gonna take these bearings off and get a weight on these spools. Okay, so the bearings are off the spools, and the old spool without the bearing weighed in at 16.66 grams. So pretty much 16.6 grams, which actually is lighter than I thought it was. But the new one weighs in at 15.1 grams without the bearing. So just to put that into context, this spool is lighter than the CURADO K spool, which is a much more expensive reel, and I believe it is about the same weight as the old TATULA CT Type R spool. So this definitely should be a improvement in casting, at least with lighter lures, and I'm surprised that LEWS didn't mention that as a new feature, that they've lightened the spool, because if you look at the box of the old reel, one of the features they put was U-shaped aluminum machine spool, as if that was a feature. So yeah, I am very glad to see that they gave us some kind of a unspoken potential performance increase with this new lighter spool. Okay guys, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to string both of these reels up and stick them on 2 of the exact same rods, and we're going to go out on the water and see if the new reel with its bearing supported pinion is going to give us any kind of increase in power or smoothness versus the old model. And we're also going to see if the new lighter spool is going to give us any kind of casting performance increase as well. So see you out on the water. Alright guys, so I'm out here on the water, and of course we have the new LEWS Speed Spool as well as the old LEWS Speed Spool, and we're going to be comparing the two to see if the new LEWS Speed Spool is an improvement over the old one. And what I'm going to be focusing on is going to be casting distance with, regular lures as well as a light lure, and I'm also going to see if the new model pitches better or easier
than the old model, because as we found out, the new model, LEWS has snuck in a lighter spool and didn't tell anybody about it. And also, we're going to check out the cranking smoothness and power because of the P2 pinion bearing on the new model. Okay guys, so we have a little head and torpedo topwater. I think this lure weighs about 3/8 of an ounce to 1/2 an ounce. And I've got the old model all set up, and let me show you how far this reel can cast this lure. Now I'm aiming for this tree that's across this little lake, and let's see what happens. Okay guys, so I made a few casts, and in my estimation, the old Speed Spool is consistently hitting around 40 yards with this topwater lure. Okay, so it's time for the new model, and once again, since the new model actually has numbers on the brake dial, with this lure I was able to go down to 8. And let me show you what this new Speed Spool can do. Okay guys, so I don't know if it came across through the camera or not, but it looks like the old model was outcasting the new model by somewhere around 5-foot average for this topwater lure. And once again, I have to go home and review the video, but from just casting them around right now, it looks like the old model did outcast the new model with this lure. So let's try a lighter lure, a 1/4 ounce square bill. All right guys, so the old model with a 1/4 ounce Lucky Craft square bill, I actually had to turn the brakes down 2 clicks to be able to cast this lure, and let's see what happens. All right guys, time for the new model with the 1/4 ounce square bill. I had to turn the brakes up to 9, which is 2 clicks, and let's see what happens. There's 3. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to compare cranking power and smoothness by trying to reel in this double-bladed spinnerbait to see if the new model has improved over the old model because it does have the P2 pinion bearing as well as a significantly longer handle. Okay, so right off the bat, I do notice that the new model does have a touch more power and a touch more smoothness than the old model. Now it's not night and day, but it is noticeable. Now both of these reels are the 7.5:1 gear ratio, but the new one is a touch smoother and has a touch more power. I'm not sure how much of that is down to the pinion bearing or the longer handle. But this is definitely where the new one is improved over the old one.
Okay guys, so I am back from out on the water testing out the new LEWS Speed Spool LFS versus the old model, and let's just briefly go over my observations of what happened out there. Now unfortunately it was just way too hot and humid out there for me to do the pitching comparison, but based off the casting performance I don't think there would be that much of a difference between the two, if any, when it comes to pitching. Now when it came to casting, unfortunately for the new model, it looked like the old model was casting both the heavier lure and the light lure a little bit farther, and I'm talking probably 5 foot or less. Now that could be the fact that the old model I have, casted it several times before, could be nice and broken in, and the new model may need that breaking in period as well. But where the new model does improve over the old model is burning in or just cranking in that double-bladed spinner bait. Now the increase in smoothness and power was, night and day, but it was evident. It was a small increase, but you definitely could notice it. So all in all, I'm gonna say that the new LEWS Speed Spool probably took, half a step forward over the old model when it comes to just overall on the water experience. Now, one thing I will tell you, if you were hoping that the new model would be smaller than the old model, that's just not going to be the case. The new model was definitely bigger in my hand to palm, but it was not uncomfortable at all. It's still a pretty small reel and very, very comfortable to palm. So with the addition of this latest Speed Spool LFS, I have acquired all 4 of the latest $99 baitcasters that came out at the 2018 ICAST show. So that means we're gonna have yet another round of the $99 baitcaster shootout. Now ICAST 2020 is coming up this weekend, and I'm gonna see if there's any noteworthy $100 baitcasters that are released, and if there are, I will add that into the contest as well. But yeah, be on the lookout for that, and that's going to be coming probably sometime in the fall once the weather cools down. But there we go guys, the new LEWS Speed Spool LFS. Thanks a lot.